Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man!
We all know Shrek to be an antisocial and highly territorial green ogre. In the beginning of development, some early sketches of Shrek's house were done between 1996 and 1997 using Photoshop, with the sketches showing Shrek first living in a garbage dump near a human village called Wart Creek. It was also thought one time that he lived with his parents and kept rotting fish in his bedroom. Hey guys, and welcome to Film Study, where we analyze films in various ways to make you see it in a different concept, and change a part of a scene and figure out how the rest of the story would play out based on a single change in one scene. From what we know of this story and how Shrek is, I was curious to know if human interaction was required for someone like him, meaning if he was alone, would he be okay, not just wanting to be alone, but actually be okay mentally. Recounting the inspiration of making the film, the producer of DreamWorks said, "Every development deal starts with a pitch, and my pitch came from my then kindergartner in collaboration with his preschool brother. Upon our second reading of Shrek, the kindergartner started quoting large segments of the book pretending he could read them. Even as an adult, I thought Shrek was outrageous, irreverent, gross, and just a lot of fun. He was a great movie character in search of a movie." This was the time that DreamWorks was founded in 1994, after Myers had completed providing the voice for the character over the course of 1999, and the film was well into production. A rough cut of the film was shown to him in February 2000. This was nearly 4 years of editing work the film had to go through, with disagreements with the plot and Chris Farley's passing just shy of him finishing the recordings for Shrek. Before its 2001 release, DreamWorks considered Shrek a low-budget boondoggle, a project to which animators were banished once they failed on other projects, according to the new book, The Men Who Would Be King, an almost epic tale of moguls, movies in a company called DreamWorks. It was known as the Gulag. One animator told author Nicole Laporte, if you failed on Prince of Egypt, a DreamWorks movie that later flopped, you were sent to the dungeons to work on Shrek. Employees called it being Shreked. The project bore a few traces of what it would become. Shrek was essentially the story of the ugliest guy in the world who meets the ugliest woman in the world. They get together and have the ugliest children, said an animator who stormed out of the story pitch in disgust. Like I said in a previous video when I spoke on if Twilight had an actual plot, this is where it gets complicated. What I was saying in that video was Bella didn't have a clear goal that would be interesting enough for the audience. This story was also adapted from a book, but a better known book, so it's easy to understand why some people, even writers who were on the project, stepped down, confused as to where the story was going to go in a way that made sense with the kind of person Shrek is. Remember, this film was an adaptation from a children's book. The story from the film went through numerous changes as there were multiple writings coming on and off the project over time for a couple years before any decision was final. Originally for the film, the inspiration for Shrek came from not only the book, but from Chris Farley and his physique. 18 months later after his passing, the writers were trying to figure out if they should scrap the project entirely. Nonetheless, the project moves forward and develops into the film most of us know now. And if you don't, consider it a Disney classic with a bit of a twist. Shrek's character was designed with difference in mind. William Steig's Shrek has been described as an anti-hero who represents someone who is different and is happy with it. He's clever, scaring off the townspeople by convincing them he's much meaner than he is. He's brave, never fleeing from a fight. He's afraid of rejection, resulting in him pushing people away before they can reject him. And he's a loner, at least in the beginning, but he longs for connection with others even as he also fights it off. And for more videos like this, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. It would really help out the channel and let us know that we are providing great content for you guys. When his parents kick Shrek out of his swamp, he is forced to embark on a trip to resolve issues over his subjectivity. According to Professor Lewis Roberts, Shrek experiences several moments of crisis in the book. He considers these moments comparable to the Lucanian mirror stage, a psychoanalytic concept relating to the moment when an infant first becomes aware of themselves. Shrek easily beats the dragon because the dragon reminds him of the part of himself he is comfortable with, his ugliness. When the film released, it is intended for kids with some adult jokes tossed in there, as we can all expect from a film like this. His character in the book was introduced as a child, not very good looking at that, who was intentionally kicked out of his parents when they thought he was old enough. His personality includes being clever, self-sufficient, disgusting, and proud of it. Shrek also has a strong sense of right and wrong, and although he puts himself before anyone else, he repeatedly saves Donkey and comes to his aid throughout his journey with him in the film. So he does develop as the story goes on. Obviously, the first scene we get a deep dive into Shrek's day-to-day life and what he does. Immediately when a nearby village plans to confront him, Shrek makes an impression that ogres are vicious and mean creatures. In fact, he is gentle, yet mean. But this is for the purpose of him wanting to be left alone. He's always been used to people's reaction of being scared away or wanting to attack him. If you think about it, Shrek only means to scare and means no real harm. When he meets Donkey, he's surprised by his reaction of not caring about his appearance or demeanor. This could be from Donkey being one of his kind. Because of this, Shrek almost doesn't know how to respond. If you remember where Shrek is, mentally, he is alone. Since he was a kid, this has been normal. He is an ogre living in the swamp. He just wants peace and privacy. Him being kicked out by his own parents, you can imagine the hurt this caused for him, which could very well explain the way he became. Lord Farquaad is a local government official rounding up fairy tale trash because they are poisoning his perfect world. Shrek is not a social butterfly, nor does he like to be around people, period. Not only is the reason because of what he is and what people react to him as, but for his own personal preference and how he grew up. What he wants more than anything is to be left alone where he can be himself without judgment. This is the one and only reason he agrees to go to Farquaad and retrieve the princess in exchange for his land back all to himself. In the script, the writers key into the complexity and depth of the main character with a humorous simile: ogres are like onions. It's what makes Shrek different. It's what challenges our ogre expectations and makes Shrek unique. It's why we pay attention and invest in this story, a funny answer to the question every screenwriter needs to answer: why should we care? We can also see that Shrek lacks patience tremendously when he blows up on Donkey when trying to describe his kind. He explains this during the night when Donkey asks him why he feels so strongly about keeping away from people.
They judge me before they even know me. That's why I'm better off alone.
The way he interacts with Fiona is a big clue. Not only is he falling in love, but the reason he is because they have the same interests. This is all new to him, of course. He won't even admit it because he knows what to expect. He goes out of his way to eventually explain to Fiona his feelings. He does the same thing with Donkey in terms of opening up when he sees Donkey sees past his flaws. In the end, Shrek and Fiona of course live happily ever after. So does he need people in his life? Yes, if this wasn't obvious already. When we are introduced to Shrek, he shows selfishness, social carelessness, and happiness of being alone. We quickly learn that this hasn't been good for him, as when he finds people who accept him and enjoy his company, he gains trust and his real feelings come out. Shrek follows the traditional story that we have all known, of Prince Charming being a fairy tale stock character who comes to the rescue of a damsel in distress and must engage in a quest to liberate her from an evil spell. The story follows this structure except in the case of Shrek, being the complete opposite of anything regarding Prince Charming. There is one unique aspect about Shrek that we really do enjoy. Shrek was rarely afraid. He was the face of fear for many others, but the fear he felt came when he was emotionally vulnerable. Vulnerability is much more common in modern storytelling when compared to the classic fairy tale. But what do you guys think of this theory? I think it was interesting dissecting Shrek's character as he changes throughout the film and have a better understanding of him. The reason this, what you might call strange film, is so likable to a broad audience is because Shrek is a non-cliche character. Adults respond to characters who aren't cliches. Both Shrek and Fiona, for similar reasons, believe that no one could love them. This fear is so great in both of them that it drives many of their actions. Giving a character a powerful fear, a shame, or an emotional problem that adults can relate to will also help draw an adult audience. As will that character's arc, as circumstances in the plot force them to wrestle with this issue. Even in the theater version of this film, there was an entire song dedicated to how he really feels.
A shield within my grip, or else I'd be a Viking and live a life of daring while smelling like a herring.
This could give more insight into his personality, but if you really pay attention to his words, he explains what he really sees in himself as saying, "I'd be a hero with swords and armor clashing, looking semi-dashing." His dream is to be the knight in shining armor that is amongst the normal fairy tale story. He doesn't say this specifically in the film, but he implies it when he compares himself to Lord Farquaad, of all people. The chorus to the song signifies his fate An ogre always stays in the dark and all alone. He grew up believing and understanding this is how things are, but doesn't want them to be like this, even though he acts like his life is exactly how he wants it to be. In the original book, there's no sign or telling that he didn't want to be an ogre, he just accepted and moved on. The way they broadened this story just by a few pages of a children's book was incredible, creating a character growing up with such trauma and mourning for anyone to accept him. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below.
You know what? When we met, I didn't think he was just a big, stupid, ugly ogre.
Yeah, I know.